Everyone wants a flat belly, right? I want a flat belly. You want a flat belly. It's really a universal desire. And I can speak from experience on this as someone who has actually achieved that flat belly and maintained it for over 15 years now. And without caffeine, without crunches, cleansers, I'm not doing any crazy amount of exercise out here. I'm definitely not restricting my calories. And one of the important reasons is I don't back up my system. I don't block it. I keep it flowing for the most part. And in the past, that was definitely not the case. So I was bloated a lot. And I understand a lot of you are actually in that position today. So we're going to talk more about it. Something important to understand here is in the belly region, it's not always fat. There's a lot of people struggling out there with what I call cement belly. Yes, you heard me correctly. And this cement belly ties perfectly in with what I call retox. We're going to talk more about that because the truth is a lot of you watching are actually backed up and you're in this never-ending cycle of retox. To fully clean house, you need to be doing a bowel movement after every meal. And I know that sounds excessive. People are like, oh my gosh, what? Like once a day is regular. That's what you've been told. That is a lie. Once a day is not enough. It's really not enough. If you want to get that flat belly, if you want to have that gas-free experience, then once a day is not going to cut it. Okay, this is just one of the secrets that I have to, the long-lasting flat belly. Even if you increase to 2 per day, that is way better. And of course, they need to be fluffy, formed, like a soft serve. They need to be the right consistency too. And that's what you get on a fruit-based diet. You don't need the burnout brew. You don't need lemon water. You don't need these detox teas, fiber powders. These cause a lot of issues, but we know in this society there's a lot of people with cement belly, and that's what they think they need to take in order to actually have, frequent bowel movements. It's a real epidemic of cement belly. And initiating a bowel movement by using these, digestive aids actually cause a host of other problems. You just need to eat in line with your species as a human frugivore. We've got chimps out there pooping after every meal. They're not having a problem. They're not, having to sip on coffee or anything like that to get going. They're eating a fruit-based diet and they're honoring their actual species, their physiology. And that's what you need to do. And that's why I recommend, before we move on to the juicy part, that you start a fruit-based diet. And this is a great one to start with. Is go fruit yourself. This is a fruit-based diet that is raw. So you're starting with raw vegan. This one's going to give you the best bowel movements that you can imagine. No more cement belly. This is how I got rid of my cement belly, basically. And yeah, there's a meal plan in there, lots of recipes, amazing exclusive raw recipes. Definitely check out the fruit-based diet. There's a link in the description below and start pooping correctly. We also speak about this in my 12-month course, and we have a new cycle starting January 2026, so get ready for that. And I'm going to talk more about that. So stay tuned. So let's get into this more. Imagine leaving your bag of food trash in the sun for a few days. It's very sealed, okay? The temperature is warm in there. What do you think is going to start to happen? The bag starts to swell, expand, bloat, just like your gut. And if you open it, you're going to get a whole lot of stink. You've got the gas. This comparison, it is very, very appropriate because, your colon is a very warm environment, about 37 degrees Celsius. And if you have this compost, basically, the compost backing up in your system, we're going to have issues with gas, bloating, that belly staying, more out there than it should be. We want the compost out, right? Not to keep it in. And this can happen when you don't go enough. Your colon becomes like a recycling plant for waste that is supposed to leave. Your liver can detox, of course, but only so much and only so fast. If you're repeatedly, eating these meals that don't work for you, then it's going to be very difficult for the liver to keep up. And that's what's causing this retox and cement belly. Things like bile acids, endotoxins, metabolic waste, like chemical leftovers from metabolism, start reabsorbing back into your bloodstream. And it's not just a digestion thing or a bloating thing. When stools hang around too long inside you, you also disrupt the gut-brain balance. You know that feeling, you get tired, brain fog, heavy, and it's not because you don't have enough food coming in or food scarcity. Generally, that's not the problem. It's actually because the system is stalled. Your body is literally dealing with metabolic leftovers from last Tuesday's lunch that should have been flushed out days ago. And it can also lead to a host of skin problems. So if you've got skin issues, you've got to definitely look at cement belly and your bowel frequency. Let's talk about microbiome for a bit, because those are like tiny tenants living in your colon, and you need to look after them, and you need to actually keep the good tenants and get rid of the bad. And when you're having too much fat, too much protein, starch heavy, you're going to start breeding the wrong bacteria, not the beneficial type. Even though a lot of people try to say, hey, resistant starch is so good in your colon, that's absolute rubbish. You do not want to be consuming resistant starch, for instance. So when you're having these like colon cement, protein powders and too much fat, it's really throwing off this delicate microbiome balance. When you eat a lot of fruit, when you eat a fruit-based diet, you're really nourishing the right bacteria, like the bifidobacteria. They're your friendly fermenters. You want to keep them happy. And that's why things like doing fasting is just so bad, because you actually end up, those beneficial bacteria can end up dying because they're not getting their food from the fiber. So when you overload your system with high fat, high protein, high starch, and when you're especially combining them all, you're really throwing a party. When you're eating these meals that are high in fat, high in protein, high in starch, or combining them all together, you're really throwing a party for the wrong crowd. These are the gas-producing, endotoxin-splitting troublemakers. Let's just put it that way. I mean, that's why a lot of people feel bloated and they feel heavy and basically cemented after they eat a high protein meal, for instance. So the texture is important too. You don't want to be having ones that are too runny or, really hard, where you're straining and straining. It's like you're trying to give birth to a bowling ball. You don't want that sort of experience, obviously. You want the fruit, the fruity fiber, soft serve, well-formed, pectin-rich. That's why apples are really good, and apple rice, my apple rice recipe, is so good for your bowels because it is very rich in pectin, and that really helps gel the movement, the BM, okay, the poop. It helps it have a good form, and that's important too. A lot of people spending half their life on the toilet. You shouldn't have time to scroll Instagram when you go to the toilet, all right? You shouldn't have time to do that. It should be a quick, easy, and pleasurable experience. A lot of these meals can contribute to diverticulitis and, this constant belly bloat. Just think about a garden hose. You block the end and the pressure builds up, and then you have like weak spots forming in that hose or your colon. This is something to make a connection with. There's a lot more to this story, and I want to speak more about it, but I'm just trying to give you a bit of an overview of retox and cement belly. And cement belly can definitely influence your hormones, with cortisol staying elevated, and then that affects your hunger dial, what I like to call your hunger dial. The ghrelin and the leptin are out of balance. And that's why a lot of people who are constipated are actually, have all these cravings. They're hungry, they're re-craving what they have in their colon still. It's fermenting, and, you're producing that bacteria, the non-beneficial bacteria as well. And they're like asking for more of the same thing. And it's quite a mess. It can be quite a mess down there. That's why constipated people actually often feel hungrier even though they're full. The body is screaming, we need fuel. But in reality, it's like you're not hungry, you're backed up. And I'm not trying to encourage that you eat less, but you need to eat more of the right food, of course, which is fruit. Something worth mentioning is bile acids, and they're basically like your internal dish soap for digesting fats. You don't want to be reabsorbing them, but when you're in this retox, cement belly state, that's exactly what can happen. Then it irritates your colon, it stresses the liver. It's like washing your dishes with the same greasy water day after day. The beauty is fruit fiber actually binds to those acids and takes it out of your system efficiently. Goodbye, cement belly. Elimination is communication. When your colon moves, your metabolism moves. When it sits, your system slows. You can really tell how healthy someone is by their flow, by their BMs. And I really want to encourage you to start looking at those bowel movements and trying to get to at least 2 per day. And the way you do that is a fruit-based diet. I'm telling you, this works. It really works. Shameless plug. And I'm just telling you, this is a way that is actually going to flatten that belly, going to get rid of that retox, get rid of the cement belly, and you are going to start feeling like, whoa, like it's going to clear your head like you would not believe. Get rid of that brain fog. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be happier. People are going to enjoy being around you more. Honestly, it is a win-win on every level, especially with that flat belly. And remember, this process can take some time because you're going to be shifting your gut microbiome to a new beneficial species, to more beneficial species, and basically getting rid of the ones that are throwing you out of balance and basically opportunistic, taking advantage of your microbes. So this is all about balancing that gut bacteria too, but you need to be patient and realize this takes time, okay? But I do recommend my Gut Glow apple rice recipe, very, very good, and I spoke about it in another video. It's basically, yeah, well, you can have a look at that other video. But anyway, I want you to come out of this slow, sluggish digestion and to finally be feeling that freedom that you get when you have frequent bowel movements. And it's just not meant to be one a day, and especially not less than one a day, because you're either not eating enough, you're not having enough fruit fiber, you're not having enough simple sugars like sun crystals in your diet. That's another important factor. And yeah, there's a lot more to say on this subject, but this is the basics, and hopefully this overview helps. Yeah, so cement belly is the new epidemic, unfortunately, but I'm trying my best to turn that around, and I invite you to actually apply to join the 12-month course for the new cycle, which starts in January 2026. It's going to be absolutely life-changing for you.